So I warmly welcome all of you to this webinar regarding how to seize business opportunities as part of the EU external action with our new member and guest speaker, Damien BOUCARD. Damien has a legal background and experience in managing both development projects and private businesses in various countries. He's a former trainer in tender and grant procedures at the European Commission. He also successfully managed the project for the establishment of the European Chamber of Commerce in Myanmar. I would like to thank all of you for being with us today, and also our guest who has kindly accepted to give us the opportunity to listen to him and to exchange with him. Please, Damien, the virtual floor is yours.
Merhaba, bonjour, and thanks everybody for joining today's webinar, and thank you, Raphael, for organizing it. We're going to deal today with business opportunities financed by the EU outside of the EU. So I will not address the business opportunities in the single market, which is regulated by the EU-Turkey Custom Union. I will tell you about the public investment in Turkey and in other candidate countries and how that can translate into business opportunities for your companies. I will try to keep it brief and clear and concise. I will try to make a presentation of 20 to 30 minutes and then open the floor for questions or debate. If you have had previous experience with EU tenders, please do not hesitate to share your experience. That will absolutely enrich today's presentation. So I will quickly tell you 2 words about what the EU does outside of the EU, why it creates business opportunities for you, where you can find the call for tenders, if you can apply, and if you should apply. As you may guess, my answer will be a yes to all those questions. But let's move on. This is the budget of the European Union, which is voted over 7 years. Currently, we are finishing the last year of the current budget, which is voted by the member states over 7 years, so 2014 to 2020. And as you can see in green and blue figures, the vast majority of the budget serves for financing operation in agriculture and in economic development and research inside the EU. But what we look in today is this small share here in orange, in Turunju, that's those 6% that interest us, and that represents a little more than 66 billion euros invested outside of the EU during 6 years, so notably in Turkey and in the neighboring countries. So what we call the EU external action is all the money that is spent in humanitarian field, in development and cooperation, and in the cooperation with countries that are candidate to join the membership of the EU, and also all the neighboring countries. And the last share is used for peace building actions, demining operations in post-conflict zone, and support to electoral system. If we move on to the next slide, in deep blue, you can see all the current members of the EU. Within 3 months, with this map will slightly change because here we have England and Wales and North Ireland that will be out, and South Ireland and Scotland that will still remain in under different configurations. So you will have a little more white over there. But what interests us today are those countries in light green where the EU invests and organize public procurements, and where your companies, whether French or Turkish, should be eligible. But of course, I will more talk in detail about candidate countries, the first of whom is Turkey, the most important in terms of economics and geopolitics for the EU, together with Bosnia, Serbia, Albania, and North Macedonia. So in those countries, the EU invests, I will detail in the next slides, and I will tell you about a few procurement opportunities that you may seize. Just briefly, what the pre-accession discussion mean. As I'm sure you are well aware, it is not just accessing a single market. It's much deeper than that, and it implies a very deep and comprehensive set of reforms that I will show you right now. Sorry, that will be the only bureaucratic slide, but I have to explain you a few things. You may read in the press that the discussion for Turkey to enter the EU is very slow and very bureaucratic. Well, this is why, because every candidate country must comply with what you see right here. And these are 130,000 pages of legislation that are ever evolving, and that covers 35 chapters. And where we stand today is that since 2005, so 15 years ago, Turkey and EU agreed to close only one chapter, which is this one in green, in science and research. Currently, the 16 chapters that you see here in blue are being discussed, and the 19 chapters that are here in black have not been discussed yet. So I really hope we can move on and accelerate things, because if we keep on that pace, 15 years times 35 chapters, that's 525 years of negotiation. So I hope there will be an impulse at the highest level. The situation is not the best. Obviously, we all read the press and we also know that the situation is not, we have known better times, but I'm confident that we will find a way to move on. Still, just for you to keep an eye in mind that this is a political background, very slow and very complex. But my point is that doesn't mean that because on the political side or on the bureaucratic side things are very complex and slow, that doesn't mean that you cannot find business opportunities. On the contrary, because to give substance to those discussions about accession to the EU membership, the EU, together with Turkey, invest 4.5 billion euro currently in different sectors, including energy, transport, environment, and trainings, and of course in agriculture. And those translate into business opportunities, into competitions that I will show you in pretty much all sectors. So, and in all, not only in Turkey, but also in other candidate countries. And those investments are pretty much in all the sectors, whether in services, in supplies, and in works. You can find all type of contracts. And I made a quick research over last year. What is very current are contracts for the provision of service in technical assistance, vocational training, insurance service, financial service, also legal service. I found a lot. In the supply, you can find a lot of procurement for office supplies, laboratory equipment, in the notably in human health and in veterinary health. There are a lot of procurements in vehicles and trucks, and of course a lot in IT supplies, printers, office supplies. In works, what I have found most were construction or renovation of health centers, hospitals, schools, and also water network, electricity grids, and wastewater treatment plants. So these are just a few examples of contracts that have been awarded over the year based on the money that is invested for the pre-accession negotiation. There is another source of business, but I will come this after on this other source, otherwise I'm going to lose you. Just quickly, a few figures. In concrete terms, the EU invests a little less than 12 billion euros in candidate countries, and Turkey gets the majority with 4 billion euros in direct investment plus €500 million under the title for cross-border cooperation. So all in all, 4.5 billion euros. But also, what's interesting to know is all the money that is spent in the other countries, in the other candidate countries, both French and Turkish companies are eligible. So do not consider only the investment in Turkey, but in all the pre-accession countries taken as a whole. So we're talking 12 billion euros investments. That's a lot of potential contracts. I made a research over last year because of the COVID. This current year is very slow, as I'm sure you are all aware. But if you take the period starting since last January 2019 until the current months, about 347 contracts have been awarded throughout all the candidate countries, the majority of it in Turkey. And what's interesting is that I only made a research over international contracts. So these are the ones with the highest value. We're talking contracts of above 300,000 euro for the service and the supplies, and contracts of no less than 5 million euros for the works contract. So that's pretty significant. I'm sure that if I add up the local contracts, I will find hundreds and hundreds of more contracts, but it's a lot of research to do, so I only stuck to international contracts. So you see, under the pre-accession negotiation, even if at the political level it is very complex and it's very tense and it's very bureaucratic, on the business side you have many opportunities. Those figures illustrate what I'm trying to say. Now, do not consider only the investment for the pre-accession, but also remember that unfortunately, because of the war in Syria, there was a huge influx of refugees coming from Syria to Turkey back in the years 14-15. It's actually the biggest humanitarian program and the biggest operation of welcoming refugees in the history of humankind. And Turkey, as you are all aware, received I think 3.5 or 3.6 million Syrians, and together Turkey and the EU invested 6 billion euro to support all the cities and regions of Turkey that have been affected by this sudden influx of refugees. And those 6 billion euros were dispersed in two tranches of 3 billion each in three sectors, as you can see on this slide: health, education, economic development, and support to municipal infrastructures, mainly around Istanbul and of course on the Turkish-Syrian frontier. So we're talking Gaziantep, of course, Mardin, Sanliurfa, all the way down to Hatay. And this money was and continues to be spent. So far, I think the first tranche of 3 billion has been entirely disbursed, and we are currently disbursing the second tranche. And so far, this money has served to award contracts to companies, any type of companies that was used to build 178 health centers, train and recruit 3,000 health workers, build 320 schools, train thousands of teachers, and renovate or build hundreds of water pipes and dozens of wastewater treatment plants. So these are as much business opportunities for local companies, for contracts that have been awarded or contracts that will be awarded, because the budget has been voted until 2020, sorry, but the projects will going on until 2025. So we can expect new procurements to be launched either this year until 2022. So let me move on with the next slide. I just showed you a few examples of business opportunities under both the pre-accession budget and the budget for the support of refugees. Now, your next question is logical, is how do I find those call for tenders? Well, there are several ways. The most logical one is to read the official newspaper every day, so the Turkish official paper and the EU official newspaper, but that takes time. And the other thing you can do to find the call for tender is to anticipate and go one step before the publication of the calls, and that is to follow up or monitor the projects that are being implemented both in Turkey and in other candidate countries, because once Turkey and the EU agreed on a common policy, they are going to fund projects to implement those policies, and it's in the framework of those projects that the call for tenders will be published. So in concrete terms, the money might come from the EU, but it will most likely not be spent directly by the EU. So you will not find the call for tenders on the website of the EU, for example. You have to look on the website of, for example, the website of the Turkish Ministry for Health, or the Turkish Ministry for Education or Labor. It depends on the project, and it depends who manages the project which is funded by the EU money. It can also be agencies of the United Nations, because this money is also channeled through the UN. So you have to monitor the different projects, and that's how you can get the call for tenders. So the sooner you monitor the projects, the better you can find the call for tenders. But I guess you have better things to do of your day, so you can just ask me otherwise, and I will be glad to help you. All right, moving on. I just showed you that there were opportunities, that there are call for tenders. Your next logical question will be, can I apply? Well, I guess you are all either French or Turkish companies, so no problem. Yes, you are eligible for all the projects, all the call for tenders I just showed you, and your products also are eligible. In Turkey, of course, but also for the competition in the other candidate countries, and in certain conditions for the competition in the neighborhood countries, the 16 other countries that I showed you before. Now, from time to time, this is a rule, this is a general rule, but there might be from time to time, and for a specific competition, there might be some restrictions that require some security clearance, but I'm talking exception. So in general terms, yes, you can apply. So moving on to the next question, that will be, okay, I can apply, but should I apply? That's a very legitimate question, because it is not applying to an EU competition is not a promenade in the park. It's a bit cumbersome, and it's a bit complicated. Every competition is different, but in general terms, I think that we can legitimately say that on the pros side, it's a good way when you become an EU contractor. It's a good way to consolidate your growth. It's also a nice way of strengthening your corporate identity. It helps you reaching new partnership worldwide. And last but not least, when you deal with the EU, you deal with a very solvent partner, so no problem as regards the payments. But also you have cons, and cons are that applying for an EU competition is quite bureaucratic. It entails quite a lot of work. It's a cumbersome process. You have to comply with pretty strict selection criteria, both in terms of technical capacity and financial capacity. The other problem is that most of the time we're dealing with big projects, so big call for tenders, and it's very rare that one company alone can cover all the scope of the call for tender. So you might have to associate with other companies, and that means setting up a consortium. And if you are the lucky winner of the competition, that also means that you will have to manage quite a large and complex contracts. So be ready for that also. These are a little bit the pros and cons I could summarize, but I'm here to encourage you to apply, because it's like in sport, you know, you never lose. Either you win or you learn. So let's practice. My next slide is a little bit to be complete. There is no opportunity without threat. So I just showed you that there were many opportunities of business under the EU investment in Turkey and in other candidate countries. But what we don't know is what comes next. As you might know, there is no agreement right now between the EU member states on the next budget. For the next 7 years, we don't know what the member states will pay. The Commission made a proposal which was to actually duplicate the budget for external action. So moving from 66 billion to 127 billion. But that proposal was repealed by the heads of states. So right now we don't know. We have a budget until December. As we say in Europe, habemus papam, until December, but after we don't know. Of course, my guess is that we will have a budget, but I cannot tell right now what it will consist in. So what share of the budget will be invested outside of the EU, we don't know. My guess is that it will remain more or less the same. And as far as candidate countries are concerned, so what interests us is what will be invested in Turkey. We don't know. And more than that, we don't know if the budget will be earmarked. If you remember one of my previous slides, the 12 billion euros were divided per country. So Turkey would get 4 billion, Serbia would get 2, and so on and so forth. Now, what I heard is that there would be one budget line, maybe let's say 10 or 12 billion, and it will not be earmarked per country, but it will be dispersed in the countries that more progress make toward the accession standards. So it's what they call a more for more approach. As far as the other source of procurements is concerned, that the regulation for Syrian refugees in Turkey, we don't know if the 6 billion will be extended with another tranche of 3 billion or less or more. We have no idea. And we don't know if it will keep on under this name or be renamed in a different way. I was supposed to tell you about today's and tomorrow European summit, but it happened to have been postponed to next week. So all those questions, including the budget for negotiation with Turkey, will be discussed next week at head of state level. So we will know more by the end of next week. I hope we will know more. Now, a few friendly advices before finishing this presentation. I encourage you to keep abreast of the next EU budget, because that's how you will find out about the projects in candidate countries, including in Turkey. I would encourage you to monitor the current EU projects to anticipate the next call to come. For those of you who may not have a big experience in EU call for tenders, I would encourage you to consider not only international competitions, but also local competitions. I recently checked on the website of the EU delegation, and they saw that they have a few forecasts to come to provide a few office services, insurance services, and security services. So I don't know if these are sectors that you are interested in, but there are some business to come. What I would also encourage you to do is to make the most of your membership in the French and Turkish Chamber of Commerce. As you probably know already, the French and Turkish Chamber of Commerce is part of a big network. So you can find French Chamber of Commerce pretty much everywhere in the world, and notably in the other candidate countries. So that's also a good network to meet companies with whom you might set up consortium. As I said before, the EU call for tenders are usually quite large, and you might have to build a consortium. It is a very good idea to set up a consortium at European level, or meaning in other candidate countries, because that's a plus when you apply to an EU tender. And last but not least, I'll make a little bit of publicity for my services. My advice is to focus on your job and outsource as much as bureaucratic burden as you can. That gives me the perfect transition to tell you 2 words about my own services. I set up EUPROLINK when I was working in a Chamber of Commerce in Myanmar, after having worked as a European Commission, because I realized that many companies either didn't know that there were so many call for tenders, or they knew but they did not dare to apply because they thought, with reason, that it was complex and quite demanding in terms of energy and time. So I set up EUPROLINK to help companies applying to EU competition. So I can only encourage you to do so. And to encourage you to compete, I give you a free and unlimited access to a database that includes all the EU, UN, and World Bank tenders. And I update this database every week. So it's updated and it's free. So please make the most of it. I can also help you find the competitions that match your company profile. That's a search and alert service. I can help you study the requirements of each competition and see what are your chances to win, and see if it's worth competing or not, or if you have no chance to win. And finally, if you decide to bid, I can help you drafting your bid. and give it the necessary, let's say, Euro flavor. And if you're the lucky winner, I can also give you one tip or two on how to best manage your contract. So this is it for me. If you want to keep in touch with me, I will be more than glad. And these are my cell phone, email, website. You can also contact me on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp and Skype. That's it for me. I will leave now the floor for questions or comments or whatever. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks again for the French and Turkey Chamber of Commerce for making this event possible. That's it for me. Teşekkürler.
Thank you, Damien. There is any question for him? So please don't forget to activate your microphone, huh? If you have a question.
I think there is a question there. Mr. Saban?
Yes, Damien, thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question. I have read this Deutsche Bank EU monitor. It's about the financing the EU's recovery and all stuff. And it says the $1.82 trillion budget is going to be in this next 7 years, right? So the countries are going to put a lot.
Yeah.
Each of the countries are going to put 1.2 to 2%. I mean, they're going to increase their own shares.
Well,
So,
that's great news, because there were several scenarios. The biggest threat was the withdrawal of UK, which leaves us with a gap of, I think, 30% to cover. And as if it was not enough, we got the COVID crisis, which created, I think, like a 9% recession rate in the Eurozone. So that's a double impact. And for that reason, the first draft budget that was presented by the President of the Commission was repealed. So if you have that confirmation that the remaining member states will cover the gap, that's a fantastic news.
yes, my question is, Mr. Damien, so in this report, there are, I am a tax person, tax advisor, so that's why I'm asking these tax issues. So there is going to be new carbon tax and digital tax and financial transaction and other stuff. So do you think Turkey might be, you know, having some projects or some new investments in terms of this new tax is going to put some burden on the European-based companies? So do you think because of these new taxes, European companies are coming to more to Turkey to at least, you know, create some project or some collaborations?
On the tax matters, I sincerely have no idea. I am not competent in tax matters. I know that many French companies leave France to come here because, as I understand, the workforce is well trained, is competitive, and the tax environment seems to be more interesting than in France. But really, I can answer you in general terms because I have no idea. I know that the new multi-financial framework, multi-annual financial framework, the bureaucratic name for the EU budget until 2027, is called the Green Deal. So there will be a huge incentive for companies to reduce their carbon impact with several incentives. On the good side, there might be a lot of subsidies to help companies converting their production process in order to meet the decarbonation milestone. And on the other hand, I'm very confident with EU member states to invent new tax because that's what states do, right? They invent tax. So to incite companies to reduce their carbon print, I'm sure that there will be a combination of incentive and tax, but I'm really stepping in a word that I don't know. So I confess my total ignorance as far as taxes are concerned.
No, thank you so much. I'm just learning.
I'm sorry, Saban, but I want to tell you, if I don't get the information, you can get the information from the directorate from trade at the EU delegation here in Ankara.
Okay.
These are the most, I could give you a name or two if you want to send me an email. I would be glad to give you some names and emails of people that might be able to give you a more accurate answer than me.
Thank you so much.
Bonjour, Monsieur Damien.
Bonjour, merhaba.
I have a question. You told that science and research chapter, the only closed chapter is science and research. What is the advantage of this chapter to compare with the others?
There, in science and research, I understand that the EU and Turkey share the same standards. I will give you an example. There is a lot of exchanges at a university level between Turkish postgraduate and European postgraduate. There are a lot of exchanges of students because, as far as I understand, there was the standards of studies were the same or were very comparable. That's why this chapter was quite easy to close. Plus, it's not really, there is no political pressure on this. Everybody likes science. Everybody understands that we have a common interest in sharing knowledge as far as university and laboratories are concerned. So the pre-accession negotiation is highly political. If at the top the political sector is blocked, or if it doesn't move, then the rest will not move. There need to be a political influx so that the rest of the bureaucrats, if I may say so, move on. The other chapters, as far as I understand, are way more complex to negotiate, and that's why I understand that things have not been moving on that well. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes. Well, to concentrate on a specific case, we have as a private company, as a private companies, we have a mixture of insurance and agriculture. We have two different companies at this moment developing high-tech project, real high-tech project. This is a mixture of insurance and agriculture field. Okay. So we know that for the second step of our project, some European companies, including French companies, are interested, but we don't know. We are not specialized in this European Communities project. What will be your what is the best way to be involved in this kind of project?
If you send me an email with the reference of the project, I can have a look.
Yes.
Because I really don't know what you're talking about, but usually in the European projects, they come with pretty substantial terms of reference. You need to go through the terms of reference and see what are the requirements that are asked for every competitor. And these are usually published. Usually when I don't know if you're talking about a competition in particular, but usually the title of the competition or the project is published on the EU official journal online. And below you have an hyperlink. If you click on the hyperlink, you will find a tender dossier that usually contains all the requirements for participating in the project. So what I would do is go buy the book, check the terms of references and see if you meet them.
Mm.
But again, if you send me an email with the name, the reference of the project you are referring to, I can have a quick look and tell you what I understand.
Okay, okay, I will do that. I will do that. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? I have a question. Has anyone among the participants had a previous experience with EU financing? Or do you think that's something that is interesting for your business?
I've cooperated several years ago with a French company for an European community project, but
Okay.
this was with our informatics company.
Okay. Was it a good experience?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Great. That's great news. Because I usually receive a lot of complaints of people that say, yeah, it's complex, it's very bureaucratic, we don't understand the jargon. But if you had a great experience, then I'm very happy.
It was before 2000.
That might explain why it was a good experience. Since then, the situation has become more complex. Anyways, let's hope for the best for the future.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if I said that, but I'm currently, I live in Ankara. I don't live in Istanbul, so I cannot come and at the Chamber of Commerce. But I hope to meet all of you one of these days at one of the chamber event when the sanitary situation will be better. And I will be in Turkey, I think, for about 4 more years. So I hope we have the time to meet.
Hope to, yes.
Okay, no more question? No, so thank you to all of you. Thank you, Damien.
Thank you, Raphael.
So
Thank
you
you,
have
everybody.
everything, you know, on the screen if you want to contact Damien directly. And I hope to see you, all of you, on the next webinar regarding the economic situation. It will take place on the Friday, 9th of October, in French and in English. Thank you very much and see you soon. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.